Well, I'm actually very much for going all the transmedia possibilities and opportunities that are available, or create new opportunities that are not available yet. I think that the world of literature must transcend into other media in order to survive, and then the storytelling can be good or bad in any media. VR has long intrigued me, and I was thinking about that. And when I wouldn't say it was my idea originally, I was just approached and suggested and offered this marvelous opportunity, which I immediately sprang onto because I thought that it was like natural, ideal match. When I started writing the Metro books, I actually was there already once, imagining myself in these tunnels, roaming alone in the night, surrounded by all these weird sounds, echoes, and my head filled with my own thoughts, being Artyom, being the main character, or being other characters. And so VR, I think, is just a natural, actually, match made in heaven for the Metro universe. Together with the guys from Vertigo, and following their ideas, which later I worked on to further develop together with them, we decided to explore the possibility of creating a story set around a different character that is not Artyom, but that is very familiar to the readers and the gamers from the previous games and the books. This is Khan, and Khan's story. We encounter Khan in the first Metro video game, or in the first Metro book, not knowing anything about his background, and he's a very powerful character, a very charismatic one that stays with the gamer, the reader, through the entire life of the franchise, although his role is not really a long or a big one. He's just impressing people. So we decided to go deeper into his biography, and then I've elaborated a backstory explaining how Khan has actually become what he is in Metro 2033 and further installments of the franchise. And this is a very personal, relatable, and dramatic story. When I first done the helm, the VR gear, and I had a look at it, and I was in the middle of a tunnel, and I was looking up, and there was a tunnel ceiling, and I was looking down over the tunnel floor, and it was like a couple years ago, maybe a year and a half ago. It was before the graphics got where they are now, which is right now it's just photorealistically amazing to me. The guys say that there is still a room for improvement over the next years, but it's already very real. But the first time, when it was still cartoony, still was like amazing feeling that I am personally now in the world that I've imagined. And this is the biggest, like just being there and seeing it all around you and being able to turn your head up and down and see it, being able to move inside it, and in a way hold and grab and touch and feel, because like your imagination is filling up to what you cannot really experience. Still, this is completely outstanding. That's the biggest difference between this and the previous Metro games, which were absolutely amazing, which I loved, and which I would definitely play through if they were not so scary, right, and difficult. But VR definitely creates some challenges, but a lot of opportunity, I think, especially for this corridor-based concept shooter revolving around a story and a personal drama and some philosophy, like Metro. The interesting thing about it is that, well, I've started writing Metro 2033 back in high school when I was 15, and I've turned 45 this year. So I've been in this world for 30 freaking years, okay? And it would be very weird if this world was not developing alongside with my personal development. So it has changed a lot. The first Metro book, I would say, is very romantic, very naive in a way, even if it's tried to be bitter. It's still quite naive in a lot of ways and regards. And then every next book and every next game that was adding up to the series was changing something or retelling part of the story from a different angle, from a different perspective, and from different, I would say, age level and level of maturity and life disappointment and life discoveries that I was making, and the storytellers from the game developers were making as well. Over the years, this franchise, I think, has been coming of age in a lot of ways, has been becoming much more mature, in a way sophisticated probably, bitter, and real. And so if in the first parts they were the romantic, imaginary things that touch to the most, I think that in the latter and in the recent parts, it's the realism and relatability that is striking the hardest. A lot of things have been happening in my own life since then, and in the life of the developers in the 4A, and now that the guys have onboarded this not so had such a happy universe. I think that it could have affected them as well a little bit, but this has been changing a lot, right? And then I think that story first, to me, clearly, you can have a very minimalist film or game with a great story that will definitely leave no one indifferent. And you can have incredibly bombastic movies with a $200 million budget, and people will just leave the cinema completely, disappointed because the story didn't deliver. So whatever part of transmedia you're going to, it's very important to take a good story with you, and then such spheres VR, such transmedia outlets as VR can bring an incredible level of immersion that no other medium is able to provide, because you are really the main character there. Yeah, the world is really around you there, and very soon I think you will start feeling things physically. We're probably just a decade away from this, but then again, in reality, which is 100% real, we all look for a good story that would make our life make sense, that would answer some questions that we have, and that would make us feel emotions, and it's the emotions that we're after. I'm very happy that we're expanding into this incredibly cool and an unparalleled field, but it's very important to remain faithful to the origins of the Metro franchise. Back in times when we didn't have any money to finance anything, and so we totally had only to rely on the human emotion coming from great atmosphere and a cool story and the meaning behind it.
Yeah, I remember when you first visited us with the first ever treatment that you wrote.
Yeah.
It was like a 2-pager.
Yeah.
I guess 2-pager, like the first treatment, and we read it, and it was emotional and moving. And I remember us looking at each other, and they're like, "We have a foundation." That was for me. We didn't even know yet how we wanted to craft the game. We just knew that we had to have a good story to start with, and I think this was for me the moment that I knew that we have a solid foundation to base our entire adventure on. So.
Well, the guys came to me already having an idea of what the story could be like, and suggesting we should revolve the story around Khan, which I totally liked, because I think that it's a natural match. Khan is a person who sees things and feels things that no other character in Metro can feel or sense. That was a great idea to make him the protagonist of the first VR game. I didn't particularly like what they suggested to revolve the story around, I thought it was not personal enough. And I have committed these mistakes in the past when I departed from the global ideas of saving the mankind or some ideology driving people. Partly because of my own life experience, I realized that the banality that nothing moves us stronger than the family stories. And then definitely, however big the idea can be, that is allegedly drives the hero, the main character. It's his personal drama that it comes first. And then, so I just needed to create a personal drama for the main character, for Khan, that would also match with the overall meaning of it, and that help us see how Khan becomes who he becomes in the series. This roaming mage, mystic. Either he's a charlatan or somebody who's really possesses some magical extra, unexplainable abilities. This is yet to define, but so basically I've constructed the character and his drama, and we've been working together on creating the script. There was a screenwriter, and there was some back and forth when I was rewriting certain parts and sending them back, and the guys were collectively concocting a version and sending it to me, and I was recreating some part of the dialogue. So basically my role and my ambition in the majority of the Metro games is to create the main characters in their arcs and their stories and the backstories, and write and polish the dialogue. But then I'm completely open to the fact that I'm very often writing too much and it cannot be all fit in, so pieces are chopped and then thrown away, but that's always, this is a multi-level process, and usually I think that as it also in the movies, the text doesn't suffer from cutting.
So I wouldn't necessarily say there was a huge amount of challenges. On the contrary, initially when we started thinking about adapting Dmitry's world to the world of VR, everything seemed to click. The universe that he described is a perfect fit for VR, because you're placing somebody in an environment where you would be constantly looking over your shoulder in a dark tunnel in a post-apocalyptic world. So the fact that you can actually take that into the realm of VR made a lot of sense for us. And putting on a gas mask, lighting a lighter, and plowing your way through cobwebs and dealing with scary mutants, everything seemed to make a lot of sense. But then when you go into the details, there's obviously mechanical details that you need to indicate for, like just on the subject of having a gas mask. We all know that 4A did a great job with really making that immersive and tactile and believable. But if you do that in VR, you obviously do want to wipe your face at a certain moment, but you need to take into account that wiping your face mask with a controller might also cause you to hit yourself because you're wearing a headset, and you might cause some irreparable damage to your headset. So it's more practical things that we had to contend with. But there weren't any kind of like, oh, we need to change or adapt ourselves completely. It's more like it's almost like a perfect gift that Dmitry gave us to start playing around.
Oh, don't thank.
And it's also not so much problematic challenges, but more like fun challenges.
Yes.
The world of Metro is, of course, so much about tactile interactions, and VR itself is also about tactile interactions. So figuring out how to make the guns work and how to make all those the hand charger work and the flashlight work and stuff like that was just more fun than challenging.
Yeah, but it feels very cool, by the way. I've just played, and then in comparison to the regular games, when you really have to go for your backpack and grab it and look at it, and then grab a charger, for instance, or a syringe gun here and that, and where's the gun clip, and it doesn't go. Oh, I have to really, it feels very real.
Yeah, you have to work hard.
You have to work hard and not forget anything.
In a good way.
And I'm really bad at the movement coordination, so I was suffering irreparable damage to my, first of all, self-esteem, and then to my gamer self. because I was not able to put the clip before dropping the old empty clip, and then put the new one, and then like do this, But it also feels very real.
And then it feels satisfying and gratifying if you do all that in the midst of the action. And
you have to get
in
there.
space, yeah.
And then the CG is just, I must say, just amazing. The gun feels so real, and they're different ones. I found this girly gun.
Yep.
With a girl who's Susan, like so.
The different weapon variants.
Yeah, but he was like very fancy. I'm not a pro gun person, but that was a very cool one.
Well, I think first of all we made a conscious decision to voice the character, and it made feel like a little bit of a departure from previous Metro games, where Artyom is obviously the silent type. But because Dmitry had delivered such a deeply personal and emotional story, it was impossible for that to be converted into something that made sense to players if you weren't having a character that would speak. Even though it may seem a little bit weird for you when you are embodying the character, for the character to speak on its own account, when you experience it in the game as it currently stands, it makes total sense. And it allowed us to really develop the story that Dmitry was trying to tell and to get across by voicing the character. And good thing also is that we were able to secure Graham McTavish as the voice of Khan, who was the original voice of Khan in the original game. And that was obviously fantastic artist to work with in terms of bringing Khan alive, but also the story alive.
Yeah, in general, I think that it's been long due that the protagonists of the Metro series get a voice. And originally, it was just a one-time decision that we don't have time to voice it, and nobody voices it. Back in the time of Half-Life, like who cared about that? And then just somehow the 4A team was sticking to this decision and this solution. And over time, when all the other protagonists of all the other big games started getting a voice and starting like expressing themselves, that has become gradually weirder and weirder. So I'm very happy that right now we're departing from that, because there was no ideology behind it. It was just, okay, we don't have time to create a voice, like let's not do that. I was suggesting that Artyom would speak, and they just didn't have the opportunity to make it happen. So it's very cool that Khan is talking, is speaking finally. And I think that does not contradict the reality at all, because a lot of us actually talk to ourselves, including myself. I talk to myself all the time. That replaces me therapy, so I'm basically my own therapist, which is very pragmatic. Also allows you to spare money.
Yeah, and I think the most important part for us was also to ensure that the character was doing things that make sense to the player. Because if the character says things that you wouldn't expect the character to say whilst you're facing that situation, then that's why it becomes problematic. But I think between you and ourselves and Chris, the script writer, I think we did a pretty good job in ensuring that Graham was able to deliver lines that made sense to the players at all times.
They don't alienate you
at all.
They increase the cohesion, actually. Yeah.
I think the setting itself is, of course, an element that lends itself, as we already said, perfectly for VR. We have all these tools to play with because you also have the sense of where your body is in VR. You can feel, that feeling that you're in a room without any lights, and you have a feeling that there's something behind you. That feeling you can play with in VR because you have a sense of your body being in that space. So letting the environment already do that job was a logical one.
Yep, and using spatial audio is like a tremendous gift if you have to design something like this. Going through these tunnels and hearing something behind you automatically forces you to look over your shoulder. And if you do that multiple times and then eventually there's something that happens, the next time you're going to be even more on your toes. And we were able to play with people's minds quite a bit during some of the chapters. There's some jump scares in there as well, which was in the VR again lends itself extremely well for those kind of things. And the World of Metro was like a perfect fit for that. With mutants roaming the tunnels, danger can come from anywhere. And we were able to to place quite a few individual encounters in the tunnel sections that will keep players on their toes. It's not for the faint-hearted, that's for sure. Well, first of all, we obviously work with Dmitry himself, and he was like not just the writer of the story and almost like a partial co-writer on the script, but he was also a source of lore in and by itself. And this is also something we like very much. Some of the elements of the original books didn't necessarily make it into the original games for whatever reason, and then now was an opportunity to actually grab some of those elements and put them into the recipe
which we will not disclose.
No, we won't disclose it yet.
It's a big surprise for the hardcore fans of the first game.
Yes. It's some interesting bits and pieces that we were able to take, and Dmitry was like our walking encyclopedia in that respect. And we had tremendous support from Deep Silver, publisher. They also had a lore specialist on their team able to help us out. And 4A themselves, the original creators of the mainline games, they helped tremendously also, not just in providing us with assets and reference material, but also in soundboarding sessions where they played the game and provided us with feedback. So that's been allowing us to really make sure that we create a faithful Metro experience because we know the fans of the Metro series, they will look at every single aspect. So the biggest compliment that we're hoping to get at the end is that players will say it feels like the proper Metro game. So,
and I also remember when Dmitry came over for the first time, we of course had played the games before, and then we started working on the project, started reading the books and playing more of the games, and you have this sort of sense of what the game is about. But then working directly with you, and you started talking about your inspiration for it and what were the thoughts behind it, that also helped tremendously in understanding the universe better. So that was a real privilege.
Yeah, I remember having the conversation with you about the locations of the station, because there's so many metro stations in the metro of Moscow, and we had to obviously organize our adventure route through the metro, and it was like, oh, can it be this station? Oh, that's too close to that station. And it can't be that we only have like 5 minutes before they reach that station. Luckily, the metro world is a supernatural one to a certain degree, so we can afford ourselves some freedom there. But it was good to have somebody on board that almost knows the real metro inside out and make sure that it is reflected in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, because the Metro universe, I'm almost inclined to say that the Soviet era world is a very tactile one. It's not necessarily a very polished one. You pick up a Kalashnikov, it feels sturdy, mechanical, tactile, and very. So we needed to get that across because that's what the universe tells us. And you can get that across, of course. At the same time, you should also be able to get that from the environment by picking up objects and operating objects and everything. There's always a balance to be found because we obviously are working with technology, and you can litter the world with hundreds of thousands of objects that you can pick up, but then you probably have a 3 frames a second frame rate, and that's not something we want to deliver to our fans. So we try to strike a balance there, and I think we've done a pretty good job in making the world interactive and having the key objects, the battery charger, the weapons in particular, because those are usually the most tactile objects that need to be there.
Well, I can just say that it feels real, and you cannot really move around every object, but you don't really need to. You're not tempted. Just being there and seeing it all around you, and just being able to intuitively, spin your head or look backward and see what's what's behind you. That's already makes it, And then the objects that you are using, they very cool. It's not less and less metros reflecting the reality, because of course they are kind of Soviet punk-ish. And this is all increasingly happening in an imaginary reality, while the real Russia goes somewhere else into its own strange future, but it's getting updates technologically, you know, whereas this is stuck somewhere in some imaginary space. But this space is very cool, and it's fun to be there. Like Fallout, for instance, it's also kind of in some kind of retro-futuristic universe that doesn't belong to reality, but who cares? So all the objects you're getting to touch, to lift, to pull the trigger, they're all very, very coolly done. Yeah, I love them.
And the mainline Metro games are also known for those first-person interactions with Artyom pulling open a door. It's very cool, and we wanted to see how we could do that justice without using any cinematics, but instead using the hands that the player has, making the rotation of a valve of the door feel clunky, and then it has this big sound when it opens, and it feels heavy when the door opens. There's definitely something we focused on for our world interactions.
Ooh, if we were to say that, we'd spoil it. We'd spoil half the game. That's a difficult one, because there's quite a few surprises in there that we need to keep a surprise.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the mutant jump scares, and I won't detail the type of mutants, but the mutated beasts,
Forms of life.
yes, that roam the metro will definitely not necessarily surprise hardcore fans, because I think they're hoping for those to be there, and they will get what they hope for. But they will be I think the most interesting surprises for them.
I think also for a lot of players that might be new to VR. Of course, Metro is known for the balance between stealth and combat, and how that pans out in VR is just another level, because sneaking up on an enemy sitting behind a crate and maybe just spying on him, listening to what he has to say, that just feels so much more personal and threatening in VR, that I think they'll be surprised by how successful that can be, that experience.
Yeah, in traditional games, it's almost like game mechanical. You sneak up, you press E, and then you take out the enemy.
Yeah.
And in the scenarios that we've got in the game, there's just literally dozens of scenarios that can play out. If you want to smash a bottle, and you just see, and from the corner of your eye, you see another guard appearing. You're like, oh, I better stay here for a second before this all goes pear-shaped. And I think those are the magical, we didn't design for them, but they happen organically kind of moments that I think players will love.
Well, to me, the most surprising part is that I was finally allowed to stick a couple of old myths from the original Metro book into this video game and do them justice, because we've never found place or time or opportunity to tell them or show them in the previous parts of the gaming franchise. So this one here is like where, in a way, in a lot of ways, it starts again feeling like the good old Metro before it became huge, where it was still contained, but it was like some heartbreaking moments, some very emotional parts that you just, like talking to somebody on a dead phone, to that person onto the past or something like that. Yeah, things like that. And then they work miracle in the VR.
Yeah, plenty.
Again, I don't want to spoil anything, but there's a scene in the midpoint of the game, a narrative scene where we're using some progressive or unconventional VR narrative techniques that I'm excited about. I'm pretty happy about that. I don't want to spoil anything about it. Players will just have to see for themselves.
Yeah, and I think we talked a lot about introducing surrealism into the game, and trying to. And again, we can't give too much away, but the player goes on a journey, and the journey revolves around slowly but surely losing trust in your own senses, because you don't know, are you going crazy, or is this real, or this is obviously what can't
perception. When you trust your own perception,
this
is always in the Metro. But
and you said I want to push that. I want to make sure that people have that journey, and we were obviously cautious that we weren't gonna play around with players' minds too much, because then you can't trust anything anymore. Like, am I in a dream or is this real? And if you do that constantly, so we had to gradually build it. And I think this is something I'm pretty proud of. If we look back on the story and how that journey from Khan to where he started and how he ends up, it's all gone really gradually. And I think it's also very, the surrealistic scenes are very well integrated into the scene. And I think that's one of the things I'm most proud of, what the team has achieved at.
Yeah, I mean, like Metro without the surrealism is just transport infrastructure, right? So, and you definitely, like, whatever it has become, it's all because of its surrealism or magical realism. So these are very important moments. Also in the original stories and the video games, where you think you know this world, but then something happens as if breaking out of a nightmare or dream, and then it makes suddenly more sense than the harsh reality, or explains more of what's going on in this universe. So I think that this component is crucial and critical, and then it's very well shown and enthusiastically not just preserved but upheld and introduced by the guys here. They really want us to tell the entire
spoilers.
You can talk about.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the hands down for me, it's the spider.
Yeah, we've got an arachnophobia.
Yeah. I wasn't aware that I was an arachnophobe, but I definitely I threw my controllers to the office a couple of times and screamed while taking off my headset. So yeah, for me that's an easy one.
Yeah, the spiders are. I didn't know this, but because I'm not afraid. Well, I'm not necessarily not afraid of spiders, but I'm not necessarily afraid of spiders, especially if they're imaginary. But seeing some of the responses, I thought initially they were like exaggerating, but it wasn't. It was just realistic fear, and it's also because you feel them crawling over you and over your face. It's just I understand why they feel the way they feel, and it's, as I said, it's not for the faint-hearted. But that's definitely gonna rank among some of the scariest moments, not just for our game, but in VR, hands down, I think, to be honest.
Yeah, well, actually, any fight is pretty scary. Any monster crawling in the dark behind you, and when you hear it coming, and then you start,
And you
twisting your neck, and like, look, what's going on, where they are, and then they spring out of darkness at you. This is freaking amazing, and it's scary as hell.
And it's.
Yeah.
We warn players because they're walking into a tunnel and there's cobwebs, and you could hear some of the test players go like, "Shit, there's going to be spiders," and yes, there might be some people that don't want to continue playing, but we'll take that as a compliment.
But we'll force them. We'll force feed them the game, Yeah. The story, execution.
I was going to say the philosophers. The philosophers are probably my favorite part because they're cool characters.
Yeah, for me it's the weapons. It's just shooting those guns and just, well, perhaps I'm a weapon crazy guy, but it's just being able to wield those guns that I love from the original games, and I really hold them and hear them and the sound they make, the impact they have. That's for me.
Yeah, for me it's the ending. Yeah, I was almost crying myself when I got the idea of the ending. So, not sure it made it to the end, but hopefully you kept my ending. Yeah, so I think that it can get pretty heartbreaking.
It's actually gotten some pretty good feedback also from players, especially those who have children and our parents. That
yeah, as I'm saying, like the family and personal relationship is what really interests us humans the most. So yeah, you can't do better than this.
It's an emotional and story, and not necessarily the heaviest of stories, but a powerful one. And it's so have to concur. All good.
Beautiful executive. from the entire universe that this just video, just really sitting here. Oh.
I would like to meet Max,
Yeah.
just because I think he's one of the coolest characters in the game. And the least likely for me would not. I know what you're gonna answer.
Yeah.
But it would probably be an Osiris. Yeah, for sure, I guess.
Yeah, for me, I think like I said just now, the philosophers are such quirky and cool characters, and we had so much fun with the actors that performed them and writing with Chris on the script.
They were the philosophers.
They were the philosophers. It was a perfect fit. I really enjoy thinking about that time that we recorded it, but also seeing how it panned out in the game.
So you already met
I
your
actually
favorite
already met them.
characters.
Yeah.
They real life.
But yeah, the spiders are hands down, of course. No way that I want to think about seeing that in real life.
The bigger the spider, the less scary it is, because you can predict its movement.
Yeah, exactly.
But they still jump, you know.
Yeah, they're quite unpredictable.
Yeah.
Put a light on them.
I have, by the way, some Instagram reels with cutest spiders. I will show it to you. You'll probably love them.
To heal it.
Yes.
To heal it.
Forward to it.
Yeah, they dance. They're colorful. You will love it. Yeah. Anyway, to me, I think that I'd love to meet this female character, Sasha from Metro 2034. Yeah, I think that she's love. But yeah, and then the least, I would love to meet Hunter. Yeah, because I think that this guy clearly has a PTSD, and then it's gonna be dangerous to hang around, you know. You know what? Metro 2035 as a plot is like a very gamifiable plot. It's just a little bit too ambitious and too big. But I think that's unlike the 34. It is like created to be adapted for screen and for VR, whatever you name it. So definitely that's kind of the story. Like, and then 4A kind of like overlapped it and went further into the events that happened after 35, and they continued that into Exodus. So for me, 35 definitely like deserves it. But there are so many cool side stories springing around it, and also the stories written by other authors in the Metro universe, which makes it like very big and large field to explore. You know, that's.
And for me, I guess, because of this, yeah, already with the Metro Exodus, you could see that expanding beyond Moscow was something that was very interesting, very tantalizing prospect in a way. And we all know that the war obviously wasn't limited, the devastation was limited to Russia only, unless the Americans had some really good Star Wars Defense Initiative technology. So I'm always curious what's happening on the other side of the ocean. What's happening
In Amsterdam.
in Amsterdam? You know, is there we have an underground here.
Yeah,
sure. So that's something I think would be very interesting to one day see in the future.
Yeah.
See the Metro franchise expand into the rest of the world.
Yeah, I would love to see a story about a nuclear submarine that is completely underwater, just exploring the thing and surfacing here and there to explore some island. I would love to see a story about a shaman on top of a mammoth going through the wasteland in Siberia.
Irradiated.
Or there is a great book written by the Italian author Tullio Avoledo about the post-nuclear Rome and Venice and Milano. That would be amazing, you know? And some parts of that story, like a guy driving a huge quarry truck transformed into a Roman church. That's also like sick, and that makes such a beautiful setting for a video game, you know. So there are very cool stories out there waiting to be transformed into video games, and I hope that this day can come when it was.
I love the atmosphere of Novosibirsk, I think it's called, in the end of Exodus.
Yeah.
Which is something that I think would be a cool challenge to pick up. That was a very memorable ending to that game, and that would translate very.
For me, it's Exodus, because it was the as I said, I always want to break out, break free from not just the shackles of an environment, but of the restrictions of technology. Only the first Metro game, you're confined to the tunnels, partially because of the story, because in the sense that it actually taking place there, but also large open world environments are super cool to explore. So for me, it was access, but between the different games, it's not like I can pick a clear favorite. They all have got their charms.
Well, I think that the most emotional for me was the first game, because I've been waiting for such a long time for it to come true, and then it was a real miracle for me, finally being able to push the buttons and see things happening on the screen. Like, there was a first realization of fulfillment of what I thought I imagined into the reality. But then Exodus definitely was the peak so far, up until the moment when Awakening is releasing, of how big this can grow. Plus, of course, the train travel is a special point of interest and emotion and nostalgia for every Russian person, because that's, I think, one of the coolest things you can do. Go there on a train almost indefinitely for a week.
It's not such a big country, Russia, is it?
No, it's not such a big country. Yeah, I once encountered a person who thought that Canada was bigger. No, Russia is the biggest, for the good and for the bad. Yeah, but going on the train there and with the feeling that this journey can never end, and constantly seeing new things out of the window, just the very feeling of this romantic of the traveling is amazing, and they have been able to convey it to the perfection. This romantic feeling of just going on the train into nowhere, in particular because in a post-nuclear world you really don't know where you're going and what's going to expect you there. So yes, these two. But I'm very enthusiastic about Metro Awakening. I think that it has good chances when I play it fully, because I've just been given opportunities to play brief episodes. But I'm very excited to be able to play it fully, and I think that it's going to be definitely one of my favorites. Yes.
And there's
not just among the Metros,
And there's an easy mode, so you can play, so you can really focus on the story.
Yeah, I was sweating in the easy mode. I can't even imagine what's going to be happening to me in the hardcore mode. Yes.
So now you have to say Last Light or
No, I was going to say that. I mean, of course, in Metro Exodus was as a player, I think I had most fun with Metro Exodus, but it's such a different game from 2033 and Last Light, and also from Awakening. I think they all have their own charm. They're all very different. I think I have the best memories from 2033 because it's so raw and it has this very unique flavor to it that is just I don't know if it's very unique to that product.
It's interesting that you should say that in terms of it being unique. Because we could have also just said, okay, let's take Metro 2033 and give it the VR treatment, or make a game that is very similar to what Metro 2033. And the fact that we were able to create something that, if you look at the broad spectrum of all the different games, it stands on its own 2 feet. It's an original story, an original experience. And it's not just, we take the universe and we just slam a VR camera on. It's
well, that's been the intent from the start.
Yep. Metro Awakening is coming out on November 7th, 2024.